Tanner. Hello, this is Tanner Tech. And today I'm going to be doing a very quick video on how to fix a common item, headphones. Now, headphones have this little plug or a little jack on the bottom that plugs into your phone or whatever you're trying to listen to music from. Now, sometimes after bending this little headphone jack comes off and it makes it useless because the earbuds and the microphone jack are not connected to this jack, so you can no longer plug it into your computer. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to install a brand new little headphone jack thing into your headphones, so that way you can plug it into your computer and listen to music again. Okay, so let's get started. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the old headphone jack from the piece of headphones. And I did this basically by just cutting this little piece of wire off, so that way these two things can be separated. This thing was already almost off anyway. There was just this little tiny string holding it to the rest of the headphone wire, so none of the things worked. Okay, so now that you have this little headphone wire that goes up to the rest of the headphones, we can start to strip this thing, so that way we can access the wires and label them, so that way we know which way they go, and we can use them to hook up to our new headphone jack. So I'll strip them with some wire strippers, and we'll start looking at these wires to see where they go. Now, at first glance, after looking at this little headphone cable, we can see 4 wires, but this is a lie. There's actually 5 wires. This little silver one here is actually hiding a white wire. So if we unwrap the copper wire on this little white wire, we can see that we can peel it back and see a little white wire inside. Now these two pairs of wires that are hiding inside each other are the microphone wires. Now the reason there's copper surrounding this little white wire in the middle is to shield it, because the microphone, if it is subjected to the 60 hertz hum of the outside sources, will create this hiss in your microphone that you don't want. So by connecting the ground of the microphone on the outside of the actual microphone wire, we prevent that hiss and make your audio sound a lot cleaner and a lot better. So that is why this little silver wire or copper wire is surrounding this little white wire. So now we have our 5 wires that we're going to use for our thing to connect back to the other headphone jack. Now let's solder or tin each wire with some super hot solder, so that way we can get a good connection on each end. So let's get to soldering all these little pieces of wire. As soon as I untangle all my solder wrapped around my little workstation. So we have our 5 wires, and what we're going to do is we're going to hold the soldering iron to each one, so that way each one gets a good coat of solder. This is called tinning the wires. This is so I can connect them to the other things. Now that all the wires of your headphone jack have been tinned, it's time to test each one of them to see where they go and how they work. Now, I assume that the white and copper wires are together because those ones were wrapped together. And since there's only 2 pairs of wires that go together in a headphone jack, we can assume that these 2 wires are going to be the microphone and microphone ground. Now the rest of these 3 wires are going to be the 3 wires that go to the different speakers. One of them is going to be speaker common, one of them is going to be right speaker, one of them is going to be left speaker. We can validate this claim using a multimeter. If I connect one wire, or one probe of the multimeter, to the red wire of the speaker, of the headphones, and I connect the other one to the green wire, then we get a reading of about 29 ohms between them. Now if I take another reading between the red wire and the black wire, we get a reading of 62 ohms. Now this means that the red and black wires go to each end of the speaker. Red is right and black is left, or whichever one goes, and green is common between the 2 speakers. We can also test to see if this is really the microphone cable by pressing the button on the headphones, and we will see a continuity reading between the copper and white wires. But because I don't really feel like doing that right now, and because by process of elimination we made sure that these 2 wires are in fact the microphone wires, we don't need to do that. So what we'll do is we'll connect the green and the copper wire to the common or ground for the whole entire thing on this little microphone jack. We will also connect red to right, black to left, and white to microphone. Now before we start connecting the wires to this male headphone jack, we need to start by taking our headphone wire, and we need to add this little sleeve on the top of it. This little sleeve is what will screw onto the headphone jack to protect all the wires. So I'll put all the wires into the sleeve and push it down all the way. After this little black wire has this little sleeve on the end, we can start to tin these little tiny dots on the male headphone jack. Now we can do this by taking the soldering iron and tinning a little bit right there. We can then tin the rest of the little slots very carefully. We can then connect the green and copper wire to the ground terminal of the headphone jack. The ground terminal is actually going to be right here. You can then proceed to hook up the rest of the wires. Now this is actually quite a difficult task because we're working with such a tiny wires here in such a confined area. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect this little white wire, which is microphone, to this little tab part of the headphone jack right here. After microphone is soldered on, you can solder on right and left. Now, like I was saying before, this is not the most easy task because you're working with ridiculously small wires in a ridiculously small space. Okay, so after you've gone through that long painstaking process of soldering on the little wires here, double check to make sure there's no shorts. Just hold one to ground, check here, check here, check here, nothing, check here, check here. Uh-oh, that's not good. Looks like we have a short from ground to tip. Alright, so it seems that there aren't actually any shorts. That short was just a false alarm because the 19 ohms here was small enough to trigger a short on my multimeter. So it looks like our headphone jack is done. So all that's left is to put a little bit of hot glue on here to isolate some of the leads and to put on this little cap right here and screw it in and complete our cable. So there you go. That is how you completely fix a headphone cable. So let's test it out. See how well it works now. As you can see, these headphones work great. As the new jack is plugged into my old iPod, and if I try and press play using this little controller right here, you can see that it presses play, and I can adjust the volume by pressing the two buttons on this headphone. That means that this thing is working just fine. My John Denver is playing very well on this iPod, and it's playing pretty good through these headphones. As you can see, I have my own video playing on YouTube on here, and if I put my earbud right here, and I press play, you can hear my thing flying. If I put the other earbud here, you can hear that one too. So we can hear that there's sound from one earbud, and we can hear that there's sound from the other earbud. Well, that's it. That is how you can fix a pair of headphones for pretty easily. Now, these are, I think, relatively expensive headphones, and this little headphone jack cost about $5 on eBay. So I'll put a link to that in the description. But anyway, well, that's how you fix a headphone jack. It's pretty cool. Let's get back to some tunes.
Tanner, check Tanner, check Tanner, Tanner, check Tanner, check Tanner. Hello, this is Tanner Tech.